It's an experience we've all had. Someone we care about, someone we trust, suddenly withdraws or ignores us. Maybe it's a friend who stops texting, a partner who grows distant, or a colleague who doesn't acknowledge our presence. The pain is real, the hurt is sharp, and the emotional weight can feel overwhelming. In these moments, it's easy to believe that being ignored is a reflection of our worth, that somehow we're not enough. But here's the truth: when someone ignores you, it doesn't mean you are unworthy. Instead, it's a sign that calls you to look deeper, to reassess, and to honor your own self-worth. Have you ever wondered why being ignored or rejected hurts so much? It's not just in your head, it's in your biology. As human beings, we are wired for connection. From the moment we are born, our survival depends on relationships. A baby's cry is met with comfort and care because we are designed to thrive in connection with others. Over thousands of years, this need for belonging has been embedded into the core of who we are. Relationships are not just something we enjoy, they're something we fundamentally need. When someone ignores you, it disrupts that natural rhythm of connection. Your brain interprets it as a threat, not just emotionally, but even physically. Research shows that the same regions in the brain that process physical pain light up when we experience social rejection. It's as if your brain is saying, this hurts just as much as if I had been physically injured. And in a way, it does. This pain is a reflection of your capacity to connect, to care, and to seek belonging. It's proof that you're human. The discomfort of being ignored is not a sign of weakness, but of your deep need to be seen, heard, and valued. That need is universal. Every person, no matter how strong or independent they may appear, carries within them a desire to belong, to be included in the lives of others in a meaningful way. But here's something important to remember: while connection is essential, the pain of rejection doesn't mean something is wrong with you. Often when we're ignored, our minds immediately spiral into self-blame. What did I do wrong? Am I not good enough? Why don't they care about me? These thoughts can be overwhelming, but they're not the truth. The truth is, someone else's decision to ignore you has more to do with them than it does with you. Sometimes people pull away or ignore others because they're dealing with their own insecurities, fears, or limitations. Other times, they may not know how to handle certain emotions or situations. It's not your responsibility to fix that for them, nor should you measure your worth based on how someone else behaves. When rejection stings, take a moment to remind yourself that it's natural to feel hurt. Let yourself feel that pain. It's okay to acknowledge it. But don't let it convince you that you're unworthy of love and connection. Your ability to feel the sting is proof of your courage and your capacity to care deeply. And those qualities, though they may make you vulnerable at times, are also your greatest strengths. Connection is your birthright, and rejection, while painful, is not the final word. It's a moment, not a definition. Lean into the truth that you are wired for connection, and those who are meant to connect with you will see, value, and cherish the amazing person you are. There's something uniquely unsettling about silence, especially when it comes from someone you care about. When someone ignores you, their silence can feel deafening, like a heavy weight pressing against your chest, leaving you to fill in the gaps with questions and self-doubt. But here's the truth: silence is often less about you and more about the person choosing to withhold communication. In moments of being ignored, it's tempting to assume the worst about yourself. Did I do something wrong? Am I not important enough? Why don't they care? These thoughts creep in and start to shape the way you see yourself. But what if the silence isn't about your shortcomings? What if it's a reflection of the other person's struggles, insecurities, or inability to express themselves? Silence is, in many ways, a mirror. It reflects back what's happening within the person who's ignoring you. People often withdraw or avoid communication because they're dealing with their own fears, frustrations, or unresolved emotions. Sometimes they don't know how to articulate what they're feeling. Other times they might lack the tools or courage to address an issue directly. Instead of engaging, they retreat into silence, a coping mechanism that feels safer to them but leaves you in the dark. It's important to remember that their silence is not your responsibility to decode. You don't have to play detective or exhaust yourself trying to figure out what their silence means. It's okay to acknowledge that their choice to ignore you says more about where they are in life than it does about who you are as a person. This doesn't mean their silence is excusable, especially if it's hurtful or prolonged. It simply means you don't have to internalize it. You don't have to let their lack of communication shape your sense of worth. Instead, let their silence act as a mirror, a tool for reflection. Ask yourself, what is this silence showing me about them? Is this someone who has the emotional capacity to meet me halfway in this relationship? Does their silence align with the kind of connection I want in my life? Silence can also be an opportunity to reflect on yourself. Sometimes it forces you to confront your own needs and boundaries. Are you chasing after someone's attention because you feel unworthy without it? Are you tolerating behavior that doesn't align with your values? Silence, as painful as it is, can push you toward deeper self-awareness and clarity about the relationships you want to nurture and those you may need to let go of. That said, not all silence is permanent or malicious. Sometimes people pull away because they need time to process their emotions or situations. In these cases, it's essential to practice patience and empathy. If the relationship is meaningful to you, it's okay to open the door to communication, but only if it feels healthy and respectful to do so. However, if silence becomes a pattern, if someone repeatedly chooses to ignore you or fails to show up when it matters, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. Constant silence can indicate an imbalance where your efforts to connect are not being reciprocated. You deserve relationships where communication flows openly, where your voice is heard, and where mutual respect is the foundation. Ultimately, silence is a form of communication. Even if it feels like the absence of it, it can reveal truths about the other person's state of mind, their emotional maturity, or the dynamics of your relationship. Use this knowledge wisely. Let their silence guide you not into self-doubt, but towards self-awareness. Remember this: just because someone chooses silence doesn't mean you should lose your voice. Speak up for what you need. Stand firm in your worth. And if their silence continues, choose to invest your energy in those who are willing to meet you with the openness, respect, and love you deserve. Sometimes the loudest clarity comes from the quietest moments. When we experience pain, whether emotional or physical, it can feel like a judgment, a sentence passed upon us, telling us that something is wrong, that we are broken, or that we're somehow unworthy. The sharp sting of rejection, the gnawing feeling of being ignored, or the hurt of a lost connection can feel like a verdict that we must live with. I am not enough. I am not loved. I am not loved. I am not wanted. These thoughts can flood our minds and convince us that pain is a sign of our inadequacy. But the truth is, pain is not a final judgment, it is a teacher. Pain teaches us in ways that comfort and ease never could. It asks us to pay attention, to pause, and to reflect. It invites us to look inward and examine our beliefs, our choices, and the ways in which we interact with the world. When someone ignores you, when you feel rejected, when you experience heartbreak, it is easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism. We start to believe that the pain is a reflection of our inherent worthlessness. But pain is not a verdict on who we are, it is simply a signal that something needs attention. Consider the role of physical pain. When you touch a hot stove, your body sends you an unmistakable signal of discomfort to protect you. That sharp burn teaches you to withdraw, to avoid danger, and to care for yourself. Similarly, emotional pain serves as a signal too. It tells you that something within your emotional landscape needs attention. Perhaps it's a relationship that no longer serves you, a pattern of self-doubt, or an unhealed wound from the past that is begging for your acknowledgement. Pain doesn't seek to define you, it urges you to take action, to heal, and to grow. One of the greatest misconceptions we hold about pain is that it should be avoided at all costs. We think that pain equals failure or weakness, and so we spend so much energy trying to shield ourselves from it, fearing that if we feel pain, we'll be broken. But the reality is that pain is an inevitable part of life. It's the price we pay for living fully, for caring deeply, and for connecting authentically. The key is not to avoid pain, but to learn from it. Every painful experience is an opportunity to ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? When someone ignores you, ask yourself, what is this silence revealing about me? Is it a chance to reassess your boundaries? Is it a call to stop chasing after people who don't value you? Is it an invitation to trust your own worth, even in the absence of someone else's approval? Pain can also be a reminder of your resilience. When we are hurt, we are often faced with a choice to collapse under the weight of it or to rise above it. Pain does not define our capacity to succeed or to love. It simply highlights our ability to heal, to adapt, and to move forward. It can teach us about our inner strength and our power to rebuild ourselves after we've been knocked down. Furthermore, pain teaches us empathy. The more we endure, the more we understand the suffering of others. Pain makes us human. It connects us to the shared experience of all those who have ever felt lost, rejected, or heartbroken. Through pain, we learn to be more compassionate, not only toward others, but also toward ourselves. The experience of feeling ignored or rejected can, in time, help us extend grace to others who find themselves in similar situations. But here's the thing, pain is not permanent. Just like a storm, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. While it may feel overwhelming in the moment, remember that it is a temporary visitor. What defines you is not the pain itself, but how you choose to respond to it. You have the power to rise above it, you have the power to learn from it, and you have the power to decide that despite the hurt, you are not defined by your pain, but by your ability to transform it into wisdom, strength, and growth. Instead of viewing pain as a verdict, see it as an invitation to grow stronger, to learn deeper lessons about yourself, and to step into the person you are becoming. Allow it to guide you, but don't let it confine you. The greatest lessons often come through adversity, and the most profound growth emerges from our struggles. Pain is a teacher, not a sentence. It's a tool for transformation, not a final judgment. Embrace it, learn from it, and use it as a stepping stone to become the person you are meant to be. It's a deeply human instinct to want to be loved, seen, and valued. When someone we care about withdraws or ignores us, it can be incredibly painful. You stop looking for external validation and start building internal strength. You recognize that your value is not up for negotiation. Boundaries don't just protect you, they empower you to choose what you will allow in your life and what you won't. They create the foundation for healthier, more fulfilling relationships that are based on respect, mutual understanding, and love. It's a hard truth to accept, but not everyone in your life deserves the front row seat to your heart, your time, or your energy. We often operate under the belief that if we care about someone, if we've invested time and emotion into a relationship, then they should automatically have access to the most intimate parts of our lives. We think that every person who enters our sphere of existence deserves our full attention, our deepest trust, and our unwavering support. But this belief can be misleading. While we naturally seek connection, we also need to be discerning about who earns the privilege of being close to us. The reality is not every person who enters your life is meant to stay. Some people come into your world for a season, some for a reason, and some simply cross your path for a brief moment, and that's okay. Relationships, just like people, come with different levels of significance. Not everyone is meant to have a front row seat to the most vulnerable parts of your life. Some people simply aren't equipped to hold space for you in the way you deserve, and that's a lesson worth learning. When someone consistently ignores you, disrespects your boundaries, or fails to reciprocate your efforts, it's a sign that they don't deserve that front row seat. But it's not just about how others treat you, it's also about how you value yourself. Giving someone a front row seat means allowing them to see you at your most authentic, at your most vulnerable. It means giving them access to the most precious parts of who you are. But that access should never be automatic. It must be earned, just as you should earn the right to be close to others. There are people who will only show up when it benefits them, people who will take but never give, people who will use your energy without reciprocating it. These are the people who don't deserve a front row seat. Giving them that seat means you're allowing your time, your energy, and your emotional resources to be drained by someone who is not committed to nurturing the relationship. In doing so, you're compromising your own sense of worth and your well-being. By giving them a front row seat, you may unknowingly place yourself in a position of emotional vulnerability, where their behavior or indifference dictates your mood, your peace, and your sense of self. Not everyone who comes into your life needs to be a central figure. Some people might be important, but not in a way that demands your full attention or the deepest access to your inner world. Consider the relationships that truly deserve that front row seat, the people who show up for you consistently, the ones who treat you with respect, the ones who see you for who you truly are and celebrate you for it. These are the people who earn the privilege of being in your inner circle. They are the ones who respect your boundaries, value your presence, and reciprocate your efforts. It's also important to recognize that some people may be in your life because of obligation, convenience, or habit rather than mutual respect or deep connection. These relationships can be difficult to evaluate, especially when there's a sense of history or emotional investment. But when you start placing boundaries and acknowledging that not everyone deserves the best of you, you give yourself permission to step back and assess which relationships bring value to your life and which ones drain you. Creating space for those who truly deserve a front row seat means letting go of people who don't prioritize you or who make you feel small. It means accepting that you are worthy of relationships that are nurturing, uplifting, and reciprocal. You are not a consolation prize or a backup plan for people who only call on you when they need something. You deserve to be surrounded by individuals who choose you, who invest in you, and who show up with intention and care. By recognizing that not everyone deserves the front row seat, you also free yourself from the pressure to be everything for everyone. You no longer have to carry the emotional weight of people who aren't capable of supporting you in the ways you need. Instead, you create space for people who will honor and cherish you. You stop chasing after those who are indifferent to your presence and start focusing on the relationships that nurture your soul and align with your values. Not everyone deserves the front row seat in your life. And that's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of your wisdom, your self-respect, and your ability to prioritize what's best for you. By acknowledging this, you not only protect your energy, but also invite healthier, more authentic connections into your life. It's easy to fall into the trap of measuring our worth based on the attention we receive from others. Whether it's from a partner, a friend, a colleague, or even social media followers, it's tempting to believe that our value is somehow linked to how much we're noticed, liked, or admired. When someone pays attention to us, it can feel like validation, like we're seen and recognized for who we are. On the flip side, when we're ignored or overlooked, it can feel like a reflection of our inadequacies, as if our worth is being questioned or diminished. But here's the critical truth: your worth is not determined by anyone else's attention. The idea that our value is contingent on external validation is a deeply ingrained cultural narrative. From a young age, we are taught to seek approval, to measure success by the praise we receive, and to define ourselves through the eyes of others. We are conditioned to believe that being noticed and valued by others is the ultimate goal. But when we tie our worth to external sources, we become vulnerable to their fluctuations. If the attention is there, we feel good about ourselves. If it's absent, we feel inadequate. This cycle of seeking validation and then feeling deflated when it's not forthcoming creates a fragile sense of self-worth. In reality, true self-worth is something that comes from within. It is built on the foundation of who you are, your values, your abilities, and the kindness you show to others and yourself. It is not a commodity that can be earned, given, or taken away by someone else's recognition. Your worth doesn't fluctuate depending on how much attention you receive, how often you're included, or how visible you are to others. You are inherently valuable simply by being who you are. When we start looking for our value outside of ourselves, we essentially give other people the power to define us. We let their words, their actions, and their silence shape our self-perception. This is where we run into trouble. People are not always going to be available to affirm us, and their actions don't always reflect our true worth. Sometimes they may be distracted, overwhelmed, or simply unable to recognize the gifts we bring. When we base our worth on their attention, we become dependent on something that is outside of our control. The moment we begin to recognize that our worth is independent of anyone else's attention, we start to reclaim our power. We no longer have to wait for someone to acknowledge our value. Instead, we learn to affirm ourselves. We begin to understand that our uniqueness, our qualities, our talents, and our character are enough regardless of whether or not they are recognized by others. We don't need anyone's approval to know that we are worthy of love, respect, and care. In practice, this means no longer chasing after the approval of people who don't offer the same level of investment or recognition in return. It means recognizing when someone's behavior or lack of attention is a reflection of their limitations, not a reflection of your inadequacy. It's about setting boundaries with people who make you feel small or unimportant and refusing to let their lack of attention define your self-worth. When we allow others to determine our value, we become susceptible to a never-ending cycle of needing more from them, only to find that their attention is often fleeting or inconsistent. This also applies to social media and the digital world, where likes, shares, and comments often become the measure of one's value. The constant seeking of external validation through digital interactions can leave us feeling empty when we don't receive the level of attention we desire. But in truth, our worth cannot be reduced to likes, comments, or the number of followers we have. Social media offers a distorted view of reality, where attention is easily manipulated and fleeting. Your worth exists beyond these metrics. It is rooted in who you are when the screens are off, when no one is watching, and when you stand alone with yourself. True self-worth is constant and unwavering. It is an internal knowing that you are enough, regardless of how much attention you receive. It allows you to make choices that honor your values, your needs, and your peace without being swayed by the actions of others. When you stop relying on others to validate your worth, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of seeking external approval. Instead, you cultivate a deep, unshakable belief in your own value, regardless of who notices it or not. This doesn't mean you no longer seek meaningful connection or appreciate being seen and heard by others. It simply means that your sense of worth doesn't hinge on it. You don't need others' attention to feel whole or validated. You are complete in yourself, and no one's gaze, opinion, or acknowledgement can alter that truth. In conclusion, understanding that your worth is independent of others' attention is one of the most empowering truths you can embrace. Your value is not determined by who notices you, who appreciates you, or who chooses to engage with you. It comes from within, rooted in the unique qualities you bring to the world, your inherent dignity, and the love and respect you cultivate for yourself. When you stop measuring your worth by external validation, you break free from the cycle of seeking approval and open yourself up to true self-empowerment. You become the source of your own confidence, relying not on the attention of others, but on the unshakable belief in your own value. Relationships and recognition can still enrich your life, but they no longer define you. By embracing this truth, you create a space where you can live authentically, set healthy boundaries, and invest in relationships that honor your true worth.